What on earth is that? It's a Journey into Comics Network production! All aboard!
I brought my pencil.
Yeah! Like anything gets to say like you did before. Make it green, make it bleed, make it really.
Welcome back to another brand new season of Rank 'em All podcast, the show where we take one band's entire discography, run down each and every album, every single song, give our viewpoints and opinions, a rank, and then ultimately decide where they land in the histrionics of one particular band. Welcome back to the fold. I am your host, the Podfather Nate. I am not alone. My co-founder of everything involved with podcasting, the man himself, Brando. Welcome back. How are you, my good sir?
Doing good. Glad to be here for another season of Rank 'em All. As we've been we've been going down every single band that we've done so far. We've done Metallica. We've done Between the Buried and Me. We've done Alice in Chains. We even did Van Halen. You know, we have a couple other things in the docket also to get to, but this is one that you brought up a little while ago that said we got to get this done. And honestly, if I could truly say, this might be the quickest that from suggestion to execution that we've actually got a rank going. And hey, that says a lot because we're all excited to dive into Ghost today. And we're not alone today because we have a couple other panelists here with us. And it's the one and only, the stepdad of the Journey into Comics Network, the man himself. He is one of the most lovable guys you ever want to be around. Good old T.Y.
Live action teddy bear.
Yeah, the lovable stepdad.
Dude,
Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, but I actually get a lot of not only humor, but good feels by just making you blush, good sir.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. And also joining us, a first-timer, her first appearance on anything our podcasts related, in an interesting story that we're going to dive into in a few minutes. She is a YouTuber. She is the lead singer of the Southern Texas rock tribute to Ghost, Year Zero. She also writes her own original songs as well as poetry and others books and things of that nature. You've done books probably. Is that right? True? Real?
I was like in a poetry book. There's like a couple poems that got published.
Count it. But welcome to the fold, Andy Crimson. We're happy to have you.
Thank you all so much for having me. I'm so excited to get into this.
Yeah, so this is for full disclosure, take two. Had some technical difficulties on the front end. Yeah, sorry, but it's real. So we're just kind of locking back in. But today, like we've not alluded to, we've said it a couple times, we are doing Ghost. We are talking about Ghost's Opus Eponymous, as you can see behind me. We're going to go ahead and quickly cover a couple different things about Opus Eponymous before we really dive in and start ranking these songs. So just to kick it off, most people know this fact, but Tobias Forge, the creator of Ghost, was doing multiple projects before he actually started Ghost. And interestingly enough, of all the things he was doing, Ghost is what stuck. He was a part of Magna Carta Cartel. He was in a hair metal band called Crash Diet, an indie rock group called Subdivision. And then probably one of the most well-known ones was Repugnant, a death metal group. Now, he says in this quote, Tobias says, between 19 and 29, I was a very unsuccessful human. I was at a point of desperation 1 year into parenthood, facing the fact that, we need more money. So I decided to do something. And it's interesting because the dark history of Ghost and how everything falls into place is really shocking when you learn about it. So one of the most unlikely and terrible things happens in the precipice creation of Ghost. Tobias had written these songs, 3 tracks. He's going to release them on MySpace. That's how long ago it was, MySpace, for those of you who don't know. March 12th, 2010, he puts these 3 songs on the internet. And later that night, his older brother, who had introduced him to as an older brother, you introduce your younger sibling to everything that you want to influence them with. But, from music to comic books to horror, his brother died of a heart condition. And he goes on, Tobias says that it felt like some sort of weird trade, the band for my brother. It was like, this has happened. There's nothing I can do with it. I just got to take the ball and run with it. And I've been running ever since. Opus Eponymous is actually rise above the label that put it out. It's the most sold album of their entire label. which is pretty impressive. And actually, Lee Dorian of the Rise Above label, the boss, actually kind of had this weird situation where Tobias kept kind of pressing him, like, "Hey, I need more money," and Lee's like, "Okay, why do you need the money?" And then Tobias like, "I got to get this robe for this photo shoot. I have to have the robe. It's important." And he goes, "Fine, it better be a decent robe." The robe ends up costing way more than the photo shoot. I'm pretty sure it's not even Ghost, actually, any of the members in the picture. They're stand-ins. But it's well worth it because the imagery is what really launches the band Ghost. There was one other one I wanted to cover here. Where is it? Oh, it was never the plan for Tobias to become Ghost singer, which is incredible considering his abilities as a singer and what he does for Ghost. He says this: "I was always a big fan of Slash and Keith Richards. I wanted to be a cool guitar player rather than the singer." He contacted several established vocalists, and no one really said yes. It just didn't work. So reluctantly, Tobias decided that if he was gonna be needing a singer, that to do the job, he was going to do it himself. So those are some fun little facts about Opus Eponymous. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, this first track, I don't think, and maybe you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, I don't personally have notes per se for this one because it is an instrumental. So it does kind of have more of a tone setting thing. I think we can more all talk vibe, but I'm going to kick it to Brando first and just get, because you would do that to me too, good sir.
Yeah.
To get your
Yeah.
thoughts and viewpoints on Deus Culpa.
Yeah. So look, we have in the past we have like very loose hard rules about what we rank. You know, it's like we say we rank them all, and yet we have made executive decisions along the way to not rank certain things, like the hidden track from Alice in Chains, which
Trash.
Well, you're the
Please
one that
don't.
you're the one that liked it, and
I know
you might
it
have just
wasn't terrible.
Maybe
but...
maybe you just had a good strain that day. But I mean, you know, okay, so intros we talked about, like for Van Halen, because Van Halen there are tracks all the way around that are like Eruption is its own track. It's a little solo thing, but then there's also, I'm trying to remember the one. It's the one with just like the broken piano strings or something like that. Do you remember that, Nate?
I do. It was late in their album runs, and I can't remember what that track was called.
I don't even remember, but I know it was the worst thing we've ever ranked, and because we were like, why does this exist? I don't feel like this falls into that category. This is an album opener. It is a tone setter, but it also was interesting because it just kind of like ended, and it wasn't necessarily an intro to the first song, because then the first song kicks in later. And so I had a hard time finding out where I wanted to put this, because like instantly when I have that kind of thought, is it just goes right in the middle. But then I kind of I felt like maybe I should pull back just a little bit and not, because it just really didn't, other than like setting the tone, it really didn't do anything for me.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. Andy, let's go to you next. What's your thoughts on the intro to this album?
Pretty much what Brando said. I mean, honestly, I would skip it. Just I don't really listen to Opus too much, but on those tracks, it's just like, oh, it's not really, I can't really get into it. I don't have too much to say about it. Although it did like strike some kind of memories, or reminded me of like an old horror film, or like that intro music where you're going to church with your mom and you're just like, okay, everybody sit down and be quiet. You know, it is the tone opener for, I guess, what Ghost was trying to do. But it does end abruptly. Like it doesn't bleed through like some other instrumental tracks on other albums, like to set up the next song. So I didn't really have too much to say about it other than, yeah, it's there. It's
Okay.
cool. It's pleasant. It's not like some other ones later on in the album that we'll get to are like, oh, just gotta get past this.
Okay. And TY, what are your thoughts on Deus Culpa? If there's anything different than what anybody else has said.
I don't really have a whole lot different, but I do really like what Andy said about kind of the pre-church ceremony, like background music. You know, it did 100% kind of put me in that headspace of I'm sitting in a church somewhere. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I didn't really even want to put a number to it, just because, you know, if anything, like a lot of the stuff we talked about in the past, you know, it just, it brings the overall number down for no reason, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
A couple things I'll talk about real quick because I didn't really share my thoughts. I think this is a very unsettling intro. It does a great job of capturing the dark reality of religion, and you're like almost transported into a sermon. Like, get ready, church is about to take place, sit down, have a drink of the communion. You know, it's about to kick you in the ass. It's okay. This is the softest it's going to be. And then it's not going to be like this again. And I promise you. And that's kind of what I love about it, because you don't like, what is next? What is coming next? And I feel sorry for people that go on Spotify and like randomize listening to an album and start at the beginning, because they would hear this and then you could jump anywhere and it would just feel just as disjointed as it actually is naturally on the album. But it makes more sense with the second song. So let's go ahead and get into ranks. I'll throw mine out there real quick just so Brando can start typing. I put this as a 6.75. I think more for the tone setting of the album than it being a track that like is the best work of Ghost, if that makes sense. Let's go to TY next. What's your rank, bro?
I gave it a 6 just because, you know, I do totally agree that it gets me in the mood successfully to listen to the rest of the album. But, you know, anything less for me would, like I said, just be tanking the number, you know. So I think 6 pretty fair.
Okay. Andy, where are you at?
I don't want to tank it, but I put like like a 4, because I like what Ty said. Like, it does set the mood, but there's been stronger instrumental stuff that's really hooked me. I'm a real lyricist person, or something that's more stronger musically that probably would have propelled it, but it's gonna be a 4.
And Brando.
4.
Interesting. So we have very similar across the boards. It means like it's a 5.5 right out the gate.
5.1.
Okay. Okay, not bad. Good average math.
Well, actually, pushes up the glasses.
Actually, not technically. Let's jump into track 2 now. Conclavi con Dio. I am gonna kick this one off because okay, so the bass is dope, the intro's cool, but right away, first word on the album is Lucifer. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm sold. Let's go. Where are we going next? Whatever you do is great. But the whole vibe of the song is it gives me that Gregorian vibe of like old school chanting that's like guiding you in with the druids to the chamber of the actual sacrifice that you're about to witness. That is this album. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoy this song. I'm going to pass it to Andy next. We'll go in this order.
Echoing you, Nate, like this one was like one of my highest ones. I love how it's got the occult feel. It's just driving. Probably the song that has like my favorite lyrics on this album, because it's so in your face. It's Lucifer. It's like, oh, this is the church we're coming into. I can vibe. I love how it is bass led. I love hearing it live. It's such a powerful song live. The imagery, the lighting, and oh, I'm in love with it. And I like singing it personally. I think it's really fun.
Dope. You guys do this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah. Hell yeah. Brando, where's your thoughts?
So like you, Nate, I love the like coming in with the bass and the intro riff. I thought that was really cool. But the one thing that really stuck out to me was I really liked the interlude on this one. Like trying to get into the vibe of it and everything. For me, a lot of the times when it comes to vocal and stuff like that, it's about catchiness. So sometimes if something like that doesn't catch me, it might kind of drag it down a little bit. And I kind of felt like the chorus for me personally left a little bit to be desired in that category. But I like the interlude a lot, and then it fades out. Whereas where the intro track just kind of ended, this one faded out. All right, going to be interesting to see if that develops into a pattern.
Absolutely. TY, where are you at?
The only thing I really want to add, because I love everything that everybody else said, is that I think the tempo of this song is really what makes it. I think if it was maybe a little bit faster or, maybe a little slower and sludgy, the song wouldn't have worked quite as well as it does, because I do really dig this one.
It's almost like you would either become an Alice in Chains song at too slow
Sure.
or
Yeah.
a Metallica song at too fast. So
Sure.
it has to be a Ghost song right in the middle.
Well, and Ghost just it's its own thing, So sometimes sometimes a little thrash and power metal and that speed is good, and other times, it's not good. So
They're the potpourri of metal, and I love it.
yeah, hell yeah.
So everybody said something about the vibe on the song.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and Ty, hit me with that rank, bro.
8.75, coming strong right out of the gate.
Baller shit, Brando.
6.75.
Okay, Andy.
9.5.
And I'm at 8.25. Kind of an all around the world rank on that one. Like it. Okay, so obviously next up is Ritual. I would love to be the first one to talk, but I'm not going to do this. This time, we're going to let Andy lead it for us, okay? So what are your thoughts on Ritual?
Ritual, what sticks out to me throughout everything is like this is the classic Ghost song. Like I guess something that you would feed to someone that's just starting. I feel like it's the crowd pleaser. Like when I was listening to it again, I was like, oh, I remember being at the shows and everybody's like, bah, bah, bah. It's a little bit how did I put it? I'm checking my notes here. Well, I put that I enjoyed the cleaner vocals here on some of the compared to some of the other songs. I really like how he sounds. And I love how well put together the song is. Just the lyrics and the instrumentals, everything. Oh, and the end solo is my favorite. I like that end solo.
That noodly is something else there. I'll jump it over to TY. What are your thoughts, man? Ritual.
I think the intro, or I'm sorry, the that opening guitar lick, I think is what really hooked me for this one. And then, um, there's not really anything that jumps out until about 3/4 of the way through. I really like how the song wraps up and finishes.
Awesome. And Brando.
That riff is chunky.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, once it goes da da da. Yeah.
Goes chunky.
Yeah, super
And
chunky.
the chorus, while short, is catchy and very sing-songy, and it's like, yes, this is what I like right here. This is awesome. And I'll pair it what Ty said. It gets even better as it goes along for me, and we fade out again. Now look,
I like that you're noticing how it happens. This is a great theme for the album. Oh man.
I don't want. It's not necessarily a negative because I want to state that clearly for the listeners and everybody here. I don't think that if a song fades out, it's necessarily bad because it can fit. But when I don't know, it just maybe it's the tism in my brain that's like really making that stand out for me. I heard somebody say they hate fade outs, hate them. That they as soon as if they hear a song that they love and it's a 10, it instantly knocks it down, like because they don't like it because they just feel like it, like they feel like in the song, like
Don't cop out is kind of the vibe.
yeah, like but see, as someone who has played in the band with someone else here in this room, that I understand that. I understand the vibe behind like, well, we don't really want to end it. We're just going to shorten it. We're just going to fade it out and have the vibe go. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it maybe it doesn't. Because when you play it live, you're not going to fade out. Like everybody, the roadies just go up and start, or the guy at the soundboard just starts slowly bringing the sound down. Yeah. And everybody's up there still jamming, but like it's like that's absolutely ridiculous. Intensity. But I want to like see, to me that sounds like something that Jack Black and Tenacious D would do or something like that. Something
1000%.
But no, I liked it. I thought it was a definite step up so far from what we've heard.
Awesome. I'll add to this that I think this song is the perfect earworm. It gets in your ear immediately. One thing I should have mentioned, and when I was talking about facts, and maybe not everybody knows this, but Ghost performs in D standard tuning, so they're a whole step down from what typical guitar players do, and I think that's where they get their sinister tone from, honestly. because a lot of their stuff is very easy to understand as a guitar player. It's not that technical, but this intro is kind of a bitch to play, and I love playing it. It's so much fun. I also wrote that the riff is a bang header, not a headbanger. It's a bang header because it's totally just over the top. You know what I'm saying? uh, I'll lead off this time for ranks. I gave Ritual a 9.75, probably my favorite on the album. And I keep forgetting that I'm leading it, and then I shut the fuck
you are in
up.
fact
You've done that twice now. Yep.
Okay,
all
Ty.
three of us at the same time, or we're
Like-
all like staring at Nate's window. Like, all right, dog. This is it.
It won't happen again. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, so just for simplicity's sake, sakes. That's why I've been kind of leading some of these that we do all together, because I've got the controls, I've got the keypad and the numbers, and it's just easier that way. But
Sure.
the moment that Nate said, "I want to do Ghost," and I said, "Cool, you're taking lead then."
Yep.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, it's fun. I just forgot that it's me. It's like shit. Okay. So Ty, what's your rank, bro? Let's get back on track.
Dude, I totally agree with you too. I think I think just the guitar in this song is good enough that 9.5 for me all day. And
Hell
I do
yeah.
want to add too, almost 54 million plays on Spotify.
I love when you bring these facts, Ty.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So when you're looking at the album on Spotify, at least as far as these metrics go, it blows 3/4 of the album away just by itself, and as far as individual plays.
I actually could very easily see that, and I kind of in my head think, without looking, I don't have my Spotify up, I could probably guess the songs that are closest to it. But anyways, let's go to Brando next for your rank.
8.25.
Awesome. And Andy.
9.2.
Dope. Okay, so we are moving on next. Hey, see, look, I got right into it. No fuckery this time. I didn't forget. Elizabeth, some people will say it the other way, but Elizabeth is proper, is track 4 on the album. It is also, with Ritual, one of the first 3 tracks released from Ghost on that original MySpace little creepy EP that they dropped. Let's go ahead and kick it off with Brando this time. Vibes.
Main riff is catchy and head bobby.
Yes.
But really, like, this is just kind of a more of a just kind of like Ritual, kind of a quintessential Ghost sound that they would even grow and mature a little bit more in later albums. Like, you can definitely tell where their humble beginnings were and where they were trying to get their vibe from. It almost seems like maybe that intro of getting ready to walk into a church, it is to listen to him up there preaching his sermon, and all these songs are the sermons, or all this he's reading from the book of evil or whatever. But there's one thing that I noticed. Again, the main riff, as I'm like chugging along, it's like I'm like, over the mountain. I'm like,
The influence is heavy,
I'm
for
like,
sure.
I'm like, that. Wow, it's not exact, but I'm like, that's almost Ozzy over the mountain. That's neat. Something I noticed.
Awesome. Let's go to Andy next.
So this one, even in the beginning of listening to Ghost, it took me a while to like get into. I can appreciate the darker tone with the lyrics and things like that. I like the solo, and it has that haunting and feel and echo to it. But it's just not my favorite song. But I do like appreciate parts of it. Like there's some organ parts leading up to the chorus that I particularly like.
Awesome. Let's see. We've done Brando. We've done Andy. It's TY's turn next, my guy. What's your vibes?
Andy just brought up the organs, and that kind of did it for me between that and the guitar solo. I don't love the vocals as much in this one. Definitely compared to the last two, but I think it's one of those that it's solid. It's just not my favorite. It's one that I might skip.
Okay. So Brando, in my opinion, kind of hit the nail on the head with a quintessential Ghost song. My notes say that the guitar work is dope. I think there's a lot of different things happening in the song with the guitars that's really keeps it unique and fresh throughout. The synth and the organs add to it entirely. There's just a creepy undertone throughout. I think the chorus slays. It's probably my second or third favorite chorus, even though it's a little bit bizarre and not like what you'd expect. I just catch myself singing it sometimes, and I'm like, okay, this is where we're at. The 70s solo in the song is really great. Like they channeled that like mid late 70s tone and vibe, and you're just like, Tobias, all your influences are showing, my friend. And then I said that the transition out of the solo is actually wild. It's one of my favorites on the album. Just that transition just kicks a whole left field to it. But let's kick off ranks. Everybody has said their thoughts. I will start. 9 is my rank, and we will go to TY
I'm gonna give this one a 7.75.
and Andy.
Do 6.5.
Brando.
7.75.
Okay, so I'm a little bit way up there on you guys. Got it. Noted. A little bit of a fanboy there. I should back off a little bit. Gotcha. Let's go to Stand By Him next, and we will kick it off with Andy this time.
So this one was one of those stronger tracks for me on this album. I just really like the vibe and the lyrics. It was like what Brando mentions about like, oh, what grabs you about this song. I love the solo and the drums before they do like the spoken bridge part. And I've heard this one live, and that one's also really fun to hear it. To sing it, it's a little bit of a challenge for me. So I just throw that note in there. It's just like some of the breathing, it's just like it runs kind of together. But it's a good song. It's one of my favorites.
Awesome. TY.
The melody and the chorus really do it for me in this one. This is actually probably my favorite on the album, I think. It's kind of middle of the pack as far as plays go on Spotify, I'll tell you that. But I really dig it.
Brando.
The first verse and chorus kind of reminds me of The Doors.
Ooh.
I get
It's the synth.
Yeah, it's that little a sound that goes in there. The interlude is really cool. The chorus is pretty catchy, and then it just ends.
You and those endings, huh?
Well, when I'm vibing something, I don't know. I'm not saying necessarily anything bad about it, because I was really enjoying the song, and then I'm like, all right, we're getting close to that was it. Oh, okay, so I guess we're just done with that song. All right, cool. But it kind of, this is their first album. They are feeling their way. They definitely have their tone down. As you said, it was cool that you talked about all the different projects that he has been in, because as this band has grown, you can kind of sense certain songs, certain feels, certain albums where like he has brought in a little bit more spice and flavor. How can I evolve the sound even more? How can I do this? How can I broaden the horizons of this band sound to maybe appeal to even more people? Because if people are like, I heard that, I don't like it. Like, but have you heard this? The whatever. It's very interesting, because you can definitely tell that they're definitely getting their bearings with this.
Absolutely. Is it me that's left?
I believe so.
It's just I. TY, you said stuff? Man, my bad. Okay, so every song is a headbanger on this album, but it again shows up here. I think overall this song is very sonically sound. It has components where you're constantly in like, what's going on here? How's this happening? And then they shift, which forces your brain to like, I want to hear that first part again. I'll go back, man. I experience that again. And then you're really focusing on that second run through. I think the layered guitars are super complex. And I think that the synth solo that happens is so close to Final Fantasy VII in vibe and energy. It just like, it didn't take me out of it, but I just like, when I put my like deep listening ears on and I was really judging the songs, I was like, Tobias loves him some Final Fantasy VII. I just heard it for sure. Like it's in there. Stand By Him for me. It's a killer. 9.25. And we will go to Brando next.
7.75.
And Andy?
8.56.
And TY?
9.75.
Timeout. We just got to step back for just 1 second. That was a total Podfather rank Andy just gave.
Yeah, it was.
It was
was.
like one of my like I'm just gonna say the last two numbers because I can't quite place it. It doesn't quite hit a 5, but it's also not in that 6 or 7 range.
Well,
Throw it at a dartboard.
It's really hard when sometimes you're like, okay, that's like a 7.46, and it's like, okay, Nate, come on,
So-
you could just say 0.5. My
So
guy.
Nate, this is the 4th rank that you and I have done.
Yeah,
And I'm completely desensitized to it now. I remember when we first started, I used to give you side eye.
I know.
Like, I'd be like, really?
9.71. Brando's like, what?
It's the 0.1s that are always like the hardest to take because it's like, you would round that down in math.
That's just
my
me
man.
on fuckery, bro. That's just me on total fuckery. It's how it is. Let's move on.
Really
to
quick. I'm sorry. Really
Brando,
quick.
Brando, cut me
Let's
off.
circle back. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to make sure I got this right. Ty, did you say 9.75?
Correct.
Okay. That's what I thought I heard, and then we tangented, and then I wanted to make sure I got that right.
Yeah. No, this is my favorite song on the album. I think.
Awesome.
Let's now talk about Satan Prayer, which magic. TY, kick it off for me, my man.
Make sure. I really like the intro. It's sludgy and then goes right into the drums, and then we've got that really fast tempo for the instruments going on, and then right into it. I think, as I've said a couple times before, I think overall this is one of those that if the tempo was sped up or slowed down, I probably wouldn't dig it. Some of these, when we did Alice in Chains, I was complaining a lot about those 6 and 7 minute long songs. And I think this is one of those that, I probably could have taken another verse or two and been probably pretty okay with it.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Andy, what's your vibe?
I skipped this one, not gonna lie. Like when I'm listening to the album, it just really wasn't my vibe. I can appreciate the guitar tones though and the sounds that they're trying to do. It did remind me of like the culty underground beginnings, and it kind of brought to mind there was some photos that got released kind of recently of like their first show in New York or something, and it was like this creepy underground like bar or a little, I don't know what it was, but that's what it reminded me of. It's one of those songs that's setting the tone for what they're trying to do with this overall theme. But it didn't have too much, yeah, it didn't have too much to say about it, but just it's all right, but I don't really listen to it.
Okay. Brando, hit it up, my guy.
Just to change things up, we fade in.
Hey.
But
gotta be quicker than that.
I kind of agree with Andy. I feel like I don't really have a whole lot to say other than I feel like we've heard better on this album and we're going to hear better. And the doors come back. But yeah, that's all I've got to really say.
For me, I thought the sonosphere that they created that Tobias and the band created was amazing. It gives this like old creepy but new vibe. The bass, again, this is something that I want to shine on. This band does not forget they have an awesome bass player, utilize the sound of bass to spotlight different variations in how they make their music. The bass is really, really shining through the solo. It like maybe my favorite bass line in the album is that solo run. The synth outro is spacey and awesome, and I really do enjoy it. And I think that because everybody's talked, we are now on rank. Am I correct? That means that I will say, Brando, hit it first.
6.
6. Okay. Andy?
4.6.
I gonna jump that average. 8.75, baby. TY.
7.5.
That face. Okay. Oh, TY. See, we're kind of in the same boat. Okay, he gets it. He gets
So,
it. He gets it.
I will elaborate a little bit more because you touched on a couple things that sparked the imagination and allowed me to create words in my mind. The synth outro is actually the synth in the outro, I guess, is actually what kind of knocks it down for me a little bit, because the guitar Dude, I actually dug it throughout 90% of the song, and then it gets to that synth at the end, and it's kind of like, okay, we might not have needed that at that point, but that's kind of what I when I said it could have used another verse. Maybe, if a little bit more synth would have came in, and then we would have done something else with another verse, it could have been a totally different song, I think. You know, so but yeah, 7.5, pretty standard.
Okay. We'll move on to Death Knell next. I'll kick it off. I think here I go. 2 in a row. The bass shining yet again. But Papa's voice in this one specifically is very unsettling, how they just mix it and they get it kind of I wrote the vocal harmonies are so evil. I also really wanted to score this a 6.66, but I did not. So we'll get to that rank in a minute. TY, hit it up.
Right away, that bass line, man, the drums and the bass in the opening, and then how menacing his voice is, and the vocal harmonies throughout, especially that first I don't know, first like 2/3 of the song. I really dig it. I actually like that the tempo. Here's another one. I'm bringing tempo up again.
We're
That
creating
the
a drinking
song,
game.
it's slowed down a little bit. It's a little bit more sludgier, and it does a really good job of keeping that menacing feel all the way through, especially when in the song, it quiets down, and you're just hearing the snare a little bit, and I dig it.
Okay. Andy, what are your thoughts?
This is also another one, drinking game part 2, that I skipped.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't grab me as much. But to harp on what you all have already said about the vocals, I think they're some of my favorite vocals from Tobias on this album. Just the dark creepiness. This one also gives like this is an underground secret society, and I'm with that. I just don't really care for the song too much.
Okay. No worries. Brando.
Well, that's a chunky little riff.
Oh, I like that.
Just
Yeah.
a chunky
Little
little
fella.
riff. Yeah. It's funny because like so far, if we look at the kind of the ranks, we're kind of all over the place here a little bit, but some of us have synced up, and I'm gonna break a little bit. I really kind of dug this one.
Okay.
It has a really good flow to it. I was vibing it, and then it faded out.
Drinking game part 3.
Yeah, we're all.
I
doing
tell you
that.
what, album one, you're gonna be throwing back some shots for sure.
Oh, good.
Hope you're thirsty.
Definitely thirsting. Let's go ahead and get to ranks officially. Andy, kick it off.
I give it a 3.7.
Yeah. TY.
8.5.
Brando.
8.
I gave it a 7.25.
If you would have said 2.3, I would have came through the webcam.
Ew. So did I just break Brando?
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Let's move on to Prime Mover. It's another killer track on the album. I'm going to lead it off with Brando.
I really like the main riff, but I feel like the song just kind of hangs around. If there's a way, I don't know. I feel like it hangs around and it moves to where it's going, and while it gets there, it does so without a whole lot of pomp and circumstance. So like, it's just like a song that as I was listening to it, I'm like, all right, so this, okay, are we? Okay, I don't know. It was a little bit jarring to me. It wasn't it didn't flow as well as some other songs on the album.
Alrighty. Andy?
I agree with Brando. It doesn't really flow, it feels kind of stagnant for me. The most interesting part about it for me was like the prophetic style lyrics. I liked that, but another one that I wouldn't really particularly care for. I just need something that's a little bit more catchy or more driving.
She might get the nickname Skipper on the first album. TY.
I'm gonna agree with Andy and Brando. This one's not doing it for me.
I guess I'm gonna be the odd horse in the fucking ship this time. It's not that it's like the highest ranking song at all, but I do have some praise to think. This song is one of those headbanging imminent. Like as soon as you hear it, I just want to just be like, let's fucking go, rip my neck off. To talk about the disjointedness and the getting where it's going, right, Brando? You know who it gave me the most vibes of in anything, very much, was King Diamond Merciful Fate. Just total disjointed, bizarre, shifts when it wants. You're not really sure why, but ultimately you like go back for second helpings. That's what this song did for me, and it was very doomy, and I kind of really enjoyed the doominess behind it. I'll kick off ranks just because I'm here and already talking. 7 is my rank. Brando, hit it up.
5.
TY.
6. Or, I'm
Andy.
sorry.
Oh,
5.5. 5.5.
okay.
Don't mean to tank it, but 2.6.
It's okay. That's the point of rank them all.
This one is deservedly, it's definitely deserving.
What I will say, Nate, is that you brought up the King Diamond Merciful Fate. You're definitely going to get more of that as the band goes on. Just little hints here and there of maybe some influence. I mean, not only within the just the style of how they kind of bring into that music vocally and sonically, but also visually as well. Just a lot of influence with just like bringing in a lot of that into and just mixing it with a lot of other stuff. Like whenever would you have think to hear King Diamond with the Doors? Like it really, it's I don't want to say that's what this is because it's not, but it kind of it's got flavors of both.
Yeah, sort of, a little bit. Okay, so we have moved into track 9, which for the majority of releases is the final song on the album.
Mm-hmm.
However, that is not the case when we're ranking them because there's an additional one. We'll get there. The track is Genesis. It is an instrumental. Andy, kick it off for me.
So here's like a little bit of the reverse. So initially with listening to this album, skip, but because y'all invited me here and I was going through the songs, I was like, hey, why haven't I paid attention to this song more? Because I really, really like it. It gives me like, if it was an 80s 8-bit, like little video game or even like a fantasy show type of vibe, I was just like imagining things in my head as I was listening to it. My favorite part is that acoustic outro. I think it's like a nice change. I don't know if it exactly fits with the whole album, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I don't know. I really enjoyed listening to that one.
Awesome. TY.
Normally I'm not super into instrumentals, especially, I mean, if it's a band that consistently does them and every album has them, I get into it. But the one-offs, a lot of times, just don't do it for me. And dude, this is a jam. For me, it's a good one. And especially when the tail end of the song when the acoustic comes in and he's just picking it. Love it.
Brando, what's up?
So, I love the fact that Andy said 80s video game because the very first thing on my note was Sega Genesis. It literally sounded, and it reminded me of the Sega Genesis soundboard that they have on, like, all their games have a certain tanginess to it. It's different. If the Super Nintendo has a Sony chip for audio. Sega does not. It has something different. I don't recall off the top of my head, but it has you listen to the same game released on both systems, and you have different sound. It's very bizarre. But as an instrumental, I thought this was great. I thought it was fantastic, and it's my favorite song on the album, which is like it's really weird to say. Like, this is going to get my highest rank on the album so far. So far, it's the end of the album. But what I really like, it has just like that intro line, and it kind of repeats throughout, and as they add layers on top of it, and it moves. I felt like a complete and utter shift from what happened with Prime Mover, where I kind of felt like it was lingering, and then like, is this the chorus? Yeah, I just wasn't vibing it. I don't know what it was. It was just kind of like when you're playing tic-tac-toe, but like you don't have an X or an O. You're just trying to figure like I've got a T. I don't know what to do with it.
The wrong game. It's the wrong game.
Like it's like you brought your tiddlywinks and everyone's like, dude, you're an idiot. But no, this song, I thought it shifted and moved into different parts of it very well, and I vibed it a lot. Also, I don't know. We haven't really been talking about the meaning of every song. We've just been talking about our vibe and everything. But I was curious, like, what is like the intro, like what's going on? And apparently, this song is meant to represent the birth of the Antichrist, as well as the song is used to change Papa into Papa the Second.
Correct. Because Papa One was literally only used for this album, and Tobias kind of knew where he was going. He knows the bigger picture, obviously. The Kevin Feige of Ghost. Dumb shit. I know it's stupid, but to talk on Genesis, I have a couple thoughts in my notes here. First of all, it just fucking slays. The song slays you. It immediately captures you with the guitar tone, with the energy of it. It gives me Iron Maiden vibes so hard. I was just totally encapsulated with it. The synth intro builds perfectly. It just gives you this like ominous feeling. The guitars are thick with the most C's you could add to thick in the history of thickness. The lead guitar throughout is very evil, and every single one of us has touched on that Spanish guitar outro, but it is just chef's kiss, just the Salt Bay of perfection, if you will, because it just adds that little the spice at the end, that ties it all together. It's the unexpected thing you didn't realize you needed so badly in the album. And here was something I wanted to say. How you gonna call this song Genesis and it's the last song, and you could have made it the first song, and then you would have just had a banging ass album? I mean, let's just keep it real.
I like that you brought that up, Nate, because for me, dude, this would have been one hell of an opener compared to what they chose. The first track, obviously it gets you in the mood, but this was a banger.
Full blown banger mode activated. I'm going to go ahead and throw my rank out. It is an 8.75. Andy, let's get that rank.
9.
Yeah. Brando.
9.
TY.
9.
Upside down
Wow.
6s for the win.
Oh, I like it. That's the closest to a exact rank that we've had.
Almost.
Or same rank. And this may be the first album of a band that I know the four of, or that you and I have done, Brando, that didn't have a 10.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, because I think I don't know, did Van Halen 3 have a 10?
No. First album.
Oh, first album?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. So here's the question, Nate. I know you're in the driver's seat. Do you want to do the album totals now and then do the cover, or do you want to cover the cover and then come back for the album totals?
Let's cover the cover and then go back and finish. That way we can be consistent with our rank vibe and then move on.
That way we're covered.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just
Full
making sure.
coverage.
Mhm.
Geico.
That could be the episode title. That way we're covered.
Okay, so only for the Japanese release of this album for Ghost, there was a bonus track. Coolest part about it is they actually play this song live more than once. They played it a couple different times. One that if I ever got to see live would totally blow me away. It is a cover of the Beatles, Here Comes the Sun. TY, kick it off, my guy.
I actually hadn't heard this until we started doing our ranks, and I tell you what, the organ and the subdued vocals that he uses throughout the entirety of the song, you want to talk about chef's kiss. I personally like this better than the Beatles version, to be honest.
That's high praise.
Yeah, and I love the Beatles version, but this does it for me.
All right, Andy, throw it to us. What is it?
This one was kind of like a slow burn for me. Like it's just like really soft and quiet. Wasn't sure if I was feeling it yet. I do like his vocals, very Subvision vibes, and I like Subvision, some of those songs. So I was like, oh, okay, I see. And it got me thinking, because I had never heard him talk about this song. Like usually he talks about the covers sometimes, and I haven't heard a peep about this one, so that's like been lingering in my mind. But yeah, I like how it definitely just gets better as it keeps going. Definitely by the middle to the end of the song, I was like, okay, I'm sold on this. So it was all right. I'm not like a huge Beatles fan or anything, but it was an interesting choice. Different song.
Brando.
So it's interesting because the last couple of years, I've been getting a little bit more into the Beatles. They're a band that I've strayed away from for a long time. and just diving into their catalog, checking them out as songwriters, seeing their growth. It's very interesting, even if I don't dig every single song along the way. But it's very interesting because all four of them are pretty decent songwriters. Of course, you have like the two legends in that band. But what's interesting to me about this is that this is the kind of cover you want to hear. And what I mean by that is you take a song and you play tribute to the song, but you encompass your own style into it to where it's just recognizable enough, but then it sounds like a Ghost song.
Not Puddle of Mud doing Nevermind.
Yeah. It's so like okay, so if you're gonna cover the song and just play it and then play it to the T, okay, that's cool. There's some merit for that, for paying tribute to one of your influences. But something that Metallica does the same thing when they do a song. When you hear it, it's like it's their tone. They might mess around with the arrangement a little bit to make it fit into their glove, and that's exactly what Ghost did here. And it's funny because when I decided to look up a little bit about I tried to find anything. I'm like, why did they cover this? Can't find anything other than the fact that they will choose songs that are at odds with their imagery. So, like, despite the fact that they have some really dark and satanic lyrics or anything like that, they often choose songs that are at odds with that. And it's really awesome because then it's like, this is neat. And they find a way to fit it into their pocket and to take these songs and meld it into their own style. And what's interesting is that as I've been diving into the Beatles and finding the songs that I like, because they're gonna be probably like a band that's just like I nitpick, like I like this one and like this one and this one, and I have my playlist of Beatles stuff that I really like, and then I probably will skip the rest. This is one of them that I do like, and I feel like they did it really well.
Absolutely agree with that. I actually have a little background on the song. Tobias is quoted as saying, describing as why they covered Here Comes the Sun, a ghoul, which if it was a ghoul talking, it was always Tobias. Let's be real. I've been a fan of the Beatles even longer than I've been listening to hard rock, so it made a lot of sense that they select the song covers based on if they can adapt them into their own. We sort of found the angle of taking that and inverting it, or taking that song, I think they fucking typoed that, and inverting it. That's something that's sort of the Ghost recipe for doing covers. It has to be a song that has some sort of tongue-in-cheek inversion quality to it, and that song just screamed cover. For me, I put that it is creepy and badass. It is more epic in all the absolute best ways. It builds on it over time, and it is a second, third helping song. Once you've heard it more than once, you really start to find what you love about it. Signature Ghost, and I'm going to ask a question of questions because it's going to happen. When is Marvel going to use this for one of the trailers? I can just see it in my head, the creepy tone of it. I don't know what the fucking movie is, Fantastic Four, I don't know, but like Here Comes the Sun, Ghost, it would just like that Something in the Way Nirvana cover that happened. Everybody's going to go nuts about it because people don't even know this is a thing. Honestly, a lot of people didn't know they even covered the Beatles. You have to kind of dive a little bit to find that there is a cover, because typically, and we'll get into this moving forward, pretty much after every album, they do a cover album that is kind of, hey, this is some of the stuff that I was inspired by, influenced by, and like we just said there, it fits into their kind of tongue-in-cheek inversion of songs, which we definitely saw recently in the timeline. But anyways, I gave this tune an 8.25. Andy, hit it.
6.7.
TY.
8.5.
Brando.
8.5.
Nice. Okay. Well, hey, guess what? One album down. We've ranked them. Brando is going to now take over. He's going to give us all the numbers, all the stats. We'll do a little closing talk at the end here and then get ourselves out of here. Brando, take it away, my guy.
So the highest ranked song on the album was Ritual at a 9.1. And the lowest one, was not the intro track, which a little surprising, but Prime Mover took that by just barely at a 5. So my album rank for Opus Eponymous is 6.9. Nice. Nate, yours is 8.3. Tyler?
Yes, ass.
Tyler, you are right at an 8. And Andy, you are at a 6.4. with a master rank of 7.42. And that's where Opus Eponymous ranks.
So far, the highest and lowest rated Ghost album for us. Because it's the only one we've done.
It's the only one we've done. Yeah.
Sorry, smart ass, I know. But okay, so does anybody have any closing thoughts on this album as we are preparing to transition into what will be Infestissimum and the If You Have Ghosts EP?
I have one thing to say that I thought about that I forgot to say earlier, and that this isn't a direct one-to-one comparison, because obviously while there are different band members with the Nameless Schools, Tobias is the one staple. He is like the guy. But when you go, like, I didn't get into the band, same as Tyler, in 2010. I got into him, I think, around the time that Cerise hit. So hearing that and then getting into, like, the newer stuff, and then haven't really gone back to listen to a lot of this stuff really at all, other than maybe a couple here and there that I've heard in passing. This is my first dive into the first record. But I had a very similar taste here than what I had with Iron Maiden. If you get into Iron Maiden with the Dickinson era and anything like that, and you have all these big, epic songs, and here we are, this is Iron Maiden. And that's the same way if you listen to, because they've had time to mature, they've had time to find themselves, find their voice, find their tone, find everything. And that's what Ghost did as well. But when you go back to that first album with Iron Maiden and you're hit right in the face with not Bruce Dickinson, you're hitting it's a very different style. And it's basically a punk singer singing with Iron Maiden, but you hear what is to become. You hear where they started. You hear where they started to develop their sound, and that's the same thing with this album as well. You hear all the stuff that has become staples within the Ghost sound continues on, but they grow as songwriters. They figure out how to better manipulate other styles into this. Like, you'll hear songs later on that just blow this album away, in my opinion.
Sure.
Single songs, like, wow, that was powerful. But they grew to that, and they started here. And it's very interesting to go back and hear the humble beginnings of a band.
Absolutely. I just want to say really quickly, we didn't really talk about it too much, and there's not a lot of really facts, but there were a lot of different places that gave this album some praise. Metal Sucks declared Opus Eponymous the 5th best metal album of the 2010s. In 2015, Benjamin Hedge Olson of Pop Matters called Opus Eponymous a 21st century classic. He says, and I quote, "The production oozed spot on early 80s atmosphere. The lyrics were blatantly satanic without being silly, and whomever Nameless Ghoul wrote those tracks was a master of hooks and melody," which, we figure out later. Obviously, it's all Tobias and his brainchild, honestly. Multiple different sites gave it anywhere from 7 to 8.5. Decibel gave it a 9 out of 10. Loud Magazine Australia gave it a 98%, which is pretty high praise. Angry Metal Guy gave it a 4.5 out of 5. So it is well liked throughout. And I think that our ranks reflect kind of the reality of it. Is there's not everything's on this album is perfect. They are still finding their footing, but there is some real shiny gems underneath that dirt, and we just got to keep digging a little deeper. Andy and TY, have you guys got anything else to add to Opus before we close?
The only thing go ahead.
I don't know. I had nothing. I was like, nah, I had a question though, like where I had a question of opinions, because it seems like a lot of fans, older fans, they always want to go back to this album so bad. That's been the discourse. I wanted to know what y'all thought about that, because me personally, like everybody's been saying, it's nice to see the progression. Look how big Ghost has gotten. I don't think that could have happened if they just stuck in this Opus era,
I actually absolutely agree with that concept, because Tobias as a songwriter has who said it best the other day? He doesn't give a fuck about being a metal guy as much as he gives a fuck about being a great songwriter. And as he evolved, once we get into Infestissimum, which obviously has Grammy accolades tied to it and beyond, he locks into whatever it is that gives him that edge, and then really starts to release the best work. This is very much the first drawing on the fucking refrigerator the kid did in the kindergarten. Not to say it's bad. There's a lot of talent there. This kid could be a prodigy, you know what I'm saying? But it isn't perfect. And to me, as a longtime Ghost fan, I got into them right when Infestissimum dropped. This album was easy to go back to because they were still kind of early on, and I was still like, oh wow, they just have kind of leveled up. They sound more put together. They have their shit together, and I like this album, but not everything on this album needs to be resurrected. They should, once in a while play like 3 or 4 tracks and then move on from it. Yeah. So I think that's gonna do it. I think that's where we're at. Brando, is that real?
Yeah. I think it's a wrap. Yeah, just like I said, going back to seeing the humble beginnings and where they grow. A lot of like as Andy said, you'll get that with a lot of other bands too. A lot of times it's where you start. What was your first kiss? What was your first album from this band? And sometimes you find better stuff. Sometimes you go back and you find better stuff, or they put out better stuff in the future. But you always remember where you started and what hooked you. And that changes for everybody. It's all different and individual. And that's what's awesome about our forum is that we have 4 different hosts, 4 different people, 4 different opinions, and it's all over the board. That was what was great about the Alice in Chains, having Buckles on. He's such a guy with unpopular opinions, and that's what makes this kind of stuff too fun to listen to, because then the diehard fan's going to come in and they're going to start throwing their breakfast around. Like, what are you guys crazy? You don't like this one? Are you kidding me? But then
why are people listening to us at breakfast? It is so early.
Well,
Stop.
Yeah.
Some of us are morning people. Some of us, I don't wake up well in the morning, but I also don't like to go into work at 4:00 in the afternoon.
I mean, I have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to go to my job, and I totally hate it. So I vibe that completely. I'm not a morning person. They suck. But a lot of mornings on my drive to work, Ghost gets me through. I'm not going to keep in it lying. It's just how it is. I'll throw on the best of Ghost little playlist that I made. It's because some of my favorite songs from what I've ranked, and just kind of get lost in it. Before we fully get out of here, I just wanted to give Andy an opportunity to plug what she does. She is a content creator, and I think it's important that from her perspective, we understand what all she is capable of doing. So take it away.
Well, I just want to plug my channel. I've been chipping at it since 2020. I think during the pandemic, everybody was kind of at a standstill. What do? I can't go to work, can't do this. So I just kind of started doing that, and it just kind of evolved, and I really enjoy doing it. So I really appreciate all the exposure and the follows and subscribers, and I have big goals I want to just accomplish. Drop that I might be doing original music. That is eventually the goal. Just barely starting to learn guitar, rhythm guitar. So any follows are appreciated on the channel. Also, I have an Instagram where I've been known to occasionally give away some ghost themed prizes. So that's like my goal. I like to give back in that way because I'm a collector, and as a ghost fan, I've noticed in the community it's just good to give back to people, like in general, like because I know where I was. Someone gives me a mummy dust. Oh my god, like why? It's like just because, man. And I want to do that too. So if you guys are into that, anybody out there that's listening, I have my Instagram, sister_crimson. I also have a Patreon where I'll post like extra stuff behind the scenes. If y'all feel inclined, you guys can join that. But that's what I've got going on for the most part.
Awesome. And when can we see Year Zero? You guys got anything lined up?
Man, it's like a once a year thing, I guess.
Okay,
It's
sure.
like the Valley doesn't have a lot of ghost fans, the Rio Grande Valley. We did one show, what was it, last year, Halloween show, competing with a bunch of other local Halloween shows. But every once in a while we'll jam. If somebody wants us to do something, we might consider it. It's just like a lot of effort. Like you guys had talked about earlier, busy lives, priorities. Someone else has kids in the band, so there's different priorities. But who knows? We haven't really done too much, but we've been working on the other stuff, like other covers. So,
Awesome.
but so if you guys want to check that out, see if maybe we might do something, it's Ghouls of Year Zero on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Annie, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, before we fully get out of here, I'm going to do something that usually gets done to me. Brando, take it away with those plugs, bro.
Oh, man, you can check out Rank 'em all across the podcast webs and all the places where podcasts are podcasts. You can download us on all the places, Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on the Podbeans, the Stitchers, and all that stuff. You can find the video up on YouTube as well, where you can see our beautiful faces as we sit there and we grimace and we smile and we laugh and we cry and we cajole. Not so much on this podcast, but on other ones that we've done where maybe even a little bit of violence erupts somewhere where we're like friendly I'm about ready to say the term friendly threats are made between all of us friends here on the Rank 'Em All podcast. But you can also check us out on our socials. We're on Facebook and Insta and Twitters as well, where I try to keep updated when we release the stuff. I'm man. When we're talking about busy lives, my life has gotten busy. And you know what? It's funny, Nate. For the longest time, you were the one who was available all the time, and now you're available none of the time. Well, my availability has shrunk, but we get together when we can, and all of you guys can join us as well when this is all released and rank along with us. We want to hear what you guys have to say and where these songs rank for you. Comment down below on YouTube and comment on any podcast place that lets you do that, or reach out on socials and let us know. Let us know we're full of crap, or you agree with us across the board, or if you're somewhere in between, because we want to hear them. And as you're listening to this, next week we're going to hit the next album and the next one and the next one. You can listen to it right now and pre-game for the next one and figure out where your ranks lie.
And don't forget to hit the bell to get notifications. Subscribe on YouTube, because we want you to come back for more. Go back through and listen to the old shit we've ranked and listen to those albums. You might find some music you really like. I do believe that's going to do it this week for the Rank 'Em All podcast. Once again, thank everybody for joining me. I've been Nate, been joined by Brando, TY, and Andy. We will see you all next week. Stick around. More to come.